Okay, welcome everyone. As I look around, thanks for turning your cameras on. That helps me. Um, and thank you also for having the materials available. I um, I think you'll be happy to know this is the fifth and final session of self-care managing pain. But I'm really excited about today's call for a number of reasons. And I usually get more excited when something has just changed last minute and there's something additive or spontaneous. And that's exactly what's happened in this particular call. So since I'm adding a little bit more information, I'm going to try to be particularly um, conscious of the time and move ourselves along. The exciting point, I'll just tee it up, is these really are universal principles. I mean, we know that, but it's amazing to me, like each day something goes on and you go, whoa, there it is again, proof that Toi Sensei was really understanding universal principles and sharing that with us. So before I get into that, I want to get rid of my mandatory line that you know I've read now 4 times. Here comes the 5th one. Let's get it over with. You know, I am not a medical doctor, nor am I offering medical advice. But I am going to discuss evidence-based practices documented in peer-reviewed scientific journals that present mechanisms that in combination help to reduce as felt pain. Thank you for your patience on that. Now the fun stuff. So it was only, I don't know, 2-3 days ago. And Matthew in Japan, you can see him there on my screen. He's just below me. There you go, Matthew, early in the morning. So as you know, he is training under the direction of Ohara Sensei, like Uchideshi in Japan. He's in the year 3 now. And he's also what's referred to now as a licensed instructor, a Shidoin, which enables him the opportunity to attend Kaicho Sensei, Shinichi Tohei Sensei's instructor's classes, which he just did, what was it, 2-3 days ago, right? Okay. And you know, I'm not in the class, but I knew that was happening. And with the time difference, when Matthew got home, we were talking about something else. And I said, hey, you know, give me a couple lines on what was being taught. I'm really interested in understanding what, you know, Kaicho Sensei is teaching each time. Well, to Matthew's credit, he reminded me of myself in terms of the detail of his notes. And because it was fresh, he gave me a nice, long, bilingual, detailed account of the class. And I was just thrilled, not only because what he was teaching is completely consistent with what we've been doing this whole time, self-care managing pain, but I'm really proud, Matthew, here's a compliment, that you, in your letter, I haven't talked to you about this, but in your letter, you were associating what was taught with so many different things that we've been talking about and working on. And that's what I love to see, is when you understand the core so well, you immediately see the connections to everything else. So again, I could go down a wormhole and spend the whole class on the class, but I'll be really quick. The theme of this was, do we tend to react or accept in daily life? Now, we've been talking about reacting or accepting in our efforts to teach people how to manage pain. Well, in the first of the 5 sessions, thank you, Freiling Sensei, for recognizing on that first day that, you know what, maybe this is more than one class. You've been working on this or thinking about this and managing your own pain for 51 years. Maybe there's more to it. So thank you, Freiling Sensei, for, I don't know, giving me the go ahead to kind of stretch this out and go into detail. So in that first part 1, we did Toi Sensei's cosmology. He would always start his classes, you know, the universe is a limitless circle with a limitless radius, etc. And we covered all that just to situate where we're coming from. And then the second session, we took a pretty deep dive on neuroscience. In the third session, we took a pretty deep dive on metrics, because the world likes evidence-based thinking. And then in the last session, we got through exercises 1 through 4, and today we'll go through 5 through 14. But we've covered so much of the heavy lifting in terms of the core teaching. I think we're going to be able to manage this. So back to Kaicho Sensei's class. So just think about this. When you're reacting, that's going to create an excitatory response in your nervous system. But when you're accepting, that's going to be the inhibitory response. So I'm just having to say this briefly without going back and covering material that we've already covered. I'm just connecting the dots. Now, we've talked about catastrophizing, and we've even talked about the neuroscience, that mental loop, that biopsychosocial thing that depending on your personal history, your as felt life experience, you might be repeating something as a result of pain, in my case, or maybe it's a trauma, and that memory is creating that circulation. And oh, by the way, that's creating, if you react to it, an excitatory response, which you will know is not helping your as felt pain. But I thought this morning, I said, how can I, if people can't relate to this pretty heavy word called catastrophizing, right? It sounds awful. But here's a little example, and I'll just ask you to raise your hand if you can relate to this. How many of you have ever had the experience of you hear a song or you're thinking about a song, but for whatever reason, you can't stop the play of that song in your head? It just keeps going and going and going. Okay, Patrick, anyone have that experience? Okay, I'm seeing, okay, Sashin, thank you. Tim, yes. Okay, great. So I think everyone raised their hand. Yeah, like, and then what do people do when they say, how do you stop that? Well, I did a focus group of 1 today just to test my theory, and it was Ileana. And I said, hey, do you ever have that thing where you can't get the song out of your head? She said, yeah. And I said, and what do you do about it? She said, well, I think about something else. Or maybe I play that song or another song. How many of you can relate to that's what you do when you can't get the song out of your head? You try to divert your attention, right? Do another song, listen to that song. Okay, great, thank you. So I know you're with me. So it's no different if you're catastrophizing as felt pain. And again, I'm thinking, suppose you have the occasion to help someone that's in this situation. Note that it's no different than your memory just kind of caught in a loop. But when you can divert your attention, you're not all cut up in your pain. And that's what I've been referring to as self as context. So to that class, Kaicho Sensei was teaching 2 different patterns, 2 main patterns. One pattern he referred to as tamotsu, okay? That's maintaining. So think of our 3 elements: notice, direct, and sustain. Sustaining is maintaining. So Kaicho Sensei was teaching Shinshin Totsu o Tamotsu. That means maintain your unification of mind and body. But another pattern that we all fall into, he contrasted Tamotsu with Midasu. Midasu means to disturb or to agitate. Or in the dictionary, this is interesting, in a Japanese dictionary, it actually says the English word topsy-turvy, that I didn't even know was a real word, topsy-turvy, you flip it around. Well, midasu means, you lost connection. You've been disturbed, you've been agitated. And so Shinichi Sensei was teaching Shinshin Toutsu o Midasu. So you have 2 choices. You're living with your mind and body unified, and you can either maintain it or you get disturbed and distracted and you lose it. Well, as I said last week, if you are in chronic pain 24/7, you have every reason to keep that at the forefront of your consciousness. And so in a sense, I even said, I kind of consider it an advantage. All the time I've been training Aikido, also 51 years. I've had a perfectly good reason to practice the principles in daily life. Keep one point, relax completely. So Matthew went into more detail saying, you know, a couple weeks ago, Ohara Sensei was teaching the same thing. Like we were doing Munitsuki and then we were doing Tanto arts. So, and again, I'm just reviewing the Japanese, but let's say you're striking. So you can hit, right, to hit, or you can say, I'm being hit. You can have that frame of reference, I'm being hit, and you become kind of victimized. That's what happens when you're being hit with as felt pain. You're reacting, you're taking it on. Woe is me, it's taking over my consciousness. And suddenly now it's victimization. Or you can let them hit. And I remember Toi Sensei always saying, you know, if you don't want to fall, please don't hit me, just be polite. But if you strike, you're going to fall. And so in his persona, he was evidencing in his daily life, you know, just say onegashimasu, you want to hit, please welcome that. And what I'm trying to teach through this whole process is you have to welcome and say onegashimasu to your as felt pain. It's never going to go away completely, or in my case, it won't, because it's just bone on bone. But pain interference is when you do something to create a change of state. So all I'm saying here is in the last Saikonton call in that series, I think I entitled it, Is Life Happening to You or For You? It's the same thing. If life is happening to you, you're becoming a victim of your as felt pain. If life is happening for you, you're not being reactive, you're going through a level of acceptance, and you are maintaining tomatsu, shinshin totsu o tomatsu, you're maintaining your unification of mind and body. So I'll come back to this when we get to exercise 13, but I need to move things along. So I thought that was pretty amazing. That's essentially the core. You know, please welcome. It's all in terms of the spirit of how you're reacting to as felt pain. So I'm going to pick up where we left off, which was exercise 5. And the question that I asked you last time, have you ever wondered what would it be like to give people your undivided attention? And I asked you, you know, between last week and this week, try it. Try really to give someone completely your undivided attention. And how does that work? Well, why would you do that in the context of as felt pain? You can put it together because when you give someone your undivided attention, you are redirecting your consciousness away from as felt pain. So by giving someone your full attention, you're practicing noticing 100%. You're giving your full attention. I said last week, this is not any different from the Shodan requirement of Shisei posture, Shisen eye line, and Ma'ai space. And then I said, you know, but I consider those 3 characteristics exactly what we teach in 5th Q arts, right? You have to stand up straight. Eye line. I always tell people for 5th Q, what's the question that I ask? Where's your mind? Why? Because the examiner is basically saying, where are you looking? So when you start katate kosodori kokyunage, the whole idea of shisen eye line, that's right there, and why we say, where is your mind? So when you learn the Kaisho arts, you are understanding exactly where should my mind be directed when performing this art or that art or another art. But then Matthew added, because he heard me say that, and he said, you know, in Japan, they also agree. Basically from 5th Q to 1st Q, what you could say is we're always working on those criteria. But what's the difference? 4th, 3rd, 2nd, you need to tamatsu. You need to maintain. You need to continue it, just like a taigi, not to interfere, so that you're working on maintaining your unification of mind and body, growing from 5th Q, 4th Q, 3rd Q, and that notion of sustaining is exactly consistent with the elements that I was talking about. Notice, 3rd order, direct, 2nd order, right? And sustain, ideally first order. So anyway, a nice thing, by the way, about the exercise of giving someone 100% of your attention is a person is dynamic, like breathing, like meditation, like a mantra, mudra, mandala. When you're focusing on a person, that person is not static. They're talking, they're moving, you're observing their posture. And so it gives something for your mind to stay on because your mind wants to move. But if the object of what you're concentrating is dynamic, again, breathing, meditation, etc. So now what you're doing is you're kind of creating a situation where you're improving your ability to focus and sustain focus. Remember, this comes down to 3 skills: focus and sustain, relax, especially under stress or as felt pain, and connect with yourself first and then others. Okay. Oh, I was going to share something else. You know what the favorite example was on this, giving someone your full attention? You can also do this by creating a task. We do tasks all day long. Do you give your full attention to the task? So in my managing pain classes that I've been referring to throughout, we had a fun exercise. You know what their favorite one is? You know what these are? Toothbrushes. So I brought 8 of these, and we would say, all right, can you pay attention while you brush your teeth? So first, key test, right? Standing with mind and body unified. But now the idea is not to disturb, right? No midasu. Don't disturb your connection. So you pass. Okay, good. Keeping 1 point. But now hold on to this softly and let your arm go down to your side. And now test at the wrist up towards the shoulder, right? Keep weight underside. All right, good. The student is now maintaining unification of mind and body, even though they're holding this. Now raise the underside of the brush and hold it as though you're going to brush your teeth. And now you're brushing your teeth. Well, guess what? We can have your partner test. Is your weight on the underside? Yes. How about test the tip like you're holding a bokken? Yes. But if you squeeze tight and you hold the tip, your toothbrush moves. So think of it. Just standing with mind and body unified, holding the bokken, holding the toothbrush with your mind and body unified. Raise it up without losing your stability, and now move. Where should your mind be? At the tip, just like the bokken or the jo. So now you're brushing your teeth from your 1 point with ki extended through the tip of your toothbrush. You can make this stuff up all day long, but they love this. They said, did you bring the toothbrushes today? Did you bring the toothbrushes? I'm like, yeah, I got the toothbrushes. But the whole idea is you can make this up, right? But that's a fun one. Okay, let's go to exercise 6. All right, here's a big one because your tenshoku, your personal development affirmation comes into play. Have you ever wondered if you could be more patient, tolerant, and aware of what matters most? So this exercise builds off of exercise 3. Remember, take a breath before you speak. Just take a moment of silence. Try to absorb that silence before you react. I fail at this all the time, but it's a good idea to keep in mind. All right. So this time, however, before you do something, maybe any kind of action, but maybe it's a big decision. Before you do that, recite your tenshoku. Okay, in our case now, we're going through this with an eye towards managing pain. So my tenshoku is half, half, half. So am I about to do a behavior, an activity that's going to make my as felt pain worse? Or can I stop and remember, oh, maybe I should modify this activity this way or this way or this way. Oh, sorry, let me turn my ringer off. Okay, so the whole idea is you're doing a second stage of awareness of self. You're learning how to act with purpose, but you're using that ability to cause interference, that is to stop your reactivity before you engage in a particular activity. I remember I don't know, this just popped into my head. Once, I know Lou Holtz, who's an ex-football coach, and probably was most famous for coaching Notre Dame. But he would have his football players. He always said, "I want you to think about one question 24/7." And the question was, "What's important now?" So he wants a whole team to do 24/7 to prepare themselves to win a national championship. To be a national champion, you're not going to do it like just on your free time, right? So the question is, what's important now? So every time a player was about ready to do something, you had to ask, his tenshoku was, okay, is what you're doing going to help you to become a better football player and help this team to win a national championship or not? Well, this is common sense. So what I'm saying now with respect to as felt pain, why not do what world champions do? You have to make this a part of your process, a part of your life. So acceptance is a non-reactivity that you want to learn and repeat so well that it's going to change your subconscious mind, not just your conscious mind. And by the way, this gives me an opportunity to talk about psychonton again, because acceptance and non-reactivity is a major characteristic of the triple sage that was Tohei Sensei's ideal. The triple sage exercised self-control, and they were measured in their response. So the person would only react according to and in balance with whatever inputs they were giving. So they were not excitatory, nor did they have dead calmness, right? So the interesting thing about this, and I wanted to make this clarification because since I've done that whole series on psychonton, I've gotten a lot of email about it, which all great, and so thank you very much. But I wanted to say, some people say psychonton, and for some reason they say Chinese philosophy. Well, I know why they say that, because the author was Chinese, right? But the philosophy of psychonton is purposefully, remember, syncretic. And probably the guts of it is consistent with early Buddhism, which is essentially Indian philosophy. The triple sage is not just Confucian and Taoist. So the thesis of psychonton is universal principles, certainly not a culturally, insular work that says, oh, this is Chinese philosophy that Tohei Sensei is drawing from. Tohei Sensei saw psychonton as a work that evidences universal principles. And he was gravitating, he was feeling this connection even when he was in bed with pleurisy. And what I think what's interesting is his mission was already decided before he was 20 years old. So I want to make very clear, guess what? His teachers showed up when he was ready. That's what happens in real training. The teacher shows up when the student is ready. So we all know Tohei Sensei had 3 teachers, Ogura Sensei, Ueshiba Sensei, and Nakamura Tempo Sensei. But his vision of what he was searching for was straight out of psychonton, which was pre any of his teachers. And psychonton is as much Indian and Buddhist philosophy as Chinese philosophy, because Tohei Sensei didn't use those labels. He was against sectarianism and any kind of ism. That's why his whole mission was to create universal principles that people could understand no matter what culture. And I've said many times, he was a man of modernity and wanted it to be clear. Okay, so let's move then to exercise 7. Have you ever wondered if you could reduce pain by focusing more on others? Okay, you'd think, well, haven't we been talking about this, David? I mean, you were looking at 2 people, like exercise 4, and then you bumped it up to 100% attention, exercise 5. Well, exercise 7 in Living with the Wind at Your Back is really about otomoing. Can you take your level of service to a whole nother level where you're also not a bad otomo, but a good otomo. What is the difference? I won't say bad otomo. The inexperienced otomo is so reactive and so caught up in what they're supposed to do that they have tunnel vision, and they're late because they're not seeing what's going on. So it's a journey. It's part of training. That's part of the deal so that you can experience that. And of course, the person you're serving is not just like, like Freiling Sensei said, it's not like you're the king and someone's carrying your cape. You're spending a lot of time watching the otomo to figure out, are they understanding this or not? So the difference is, do you have an expanded periphery? Can you be calm and relaxed, as in, ideally in a first order experience where you are allowing the world to inform itself to you, and you will respond in a measured, not an excitatory way. So the nice thing about otomo is you're on duty 24/7. The nice thing about having pain is it's there 24/7. It forces you to pay attention. Like I say, I really think it's a gift that I've been able to have this busted ankle because it really does make a difference. So that's where I get that idea of your life is your monastery, because you have 24 hours a day to maintain tamotsu, to maintain unification of mind and body. So once you know how to manage upper side tension, you can relax, keep weight underside, and release self-imposed stress that contributes to pain intensity. Self-imposed stress contributes to the otomo practice of being late. So all I'm trying to do is to say this otomo practice, which is exercise 7, is just mindfulness practice. It's just taking it to the next level. And I think you can see how these are now building on themselves, that if you do one, you're now preparing to do the next. And when you can really learn to focus on someone and serve them with your whole heart, it's impossible to be focusing on your as felt pain. Of course, it's there. It's always there. But the catastrophizing is being interrupted because, just like getting that song out of your head, you are redirecting your attention to something else. So this is just kind of more of the same, but it's a big deal with respect to seeing yourself as context. A big part of this is to stop the identity that I am my pain. And for people who suffer from chronic persistent pain, that's what happens. So how do you create that distance, that separation, where I am not my pain? Pain is a thing, like a thought, just like if you're doing mindfulness meditation and you're taught, just watch your thoughts come and go, your emotions come and go. Just let them be. Don't judge them. Don't analyze them. Let them be, because those thoughts are not you. They are just aspects of what's going on in your head. What you are not your thoughts, and it's not your pain. So notice that all of our reality is as felt. That's why you want to get out of your own way. That's why you want to maintain unification of mind and body in daily life. Because with repetition, you will begin to transform even your subconscious mind with respect to your reactivity having to do with as felt pain. Hold on, just wanted to see something. I was searching for the simplest example. If you're going through the day, let's say you're otomoing, or let's just not say otomo. You're doing exercise 7, and you're trying to simply be in service of others, which is going to help you to get off your as felt pain. And it's a kind of like your training. So if you notice, you're saying, I want this. I need that. This should happen. This must go away. When you start paying attention to that kind of self-talk, you realize you can't possibly serve others with your full attention. If you're thinking about what you want, what you don't want, what's good, what's bad, what you wish would stop, that's not otomo. That's just you're all caught up in your situation. But the training is to try to get it caught up in a different situation. And in our language of managing pain, that's called self as context. Now I borrow that phrase to give credit where credit is due. I didn't make that up. But there is a form of therapy called ACT, acceptance commitment therapy. And that acceptance in that process, like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, ACT, acceptance is the same acceptance I'm talking about right here. Learning to accept some level of as felt pain, or in the case of trauma, where that tape keeps going around and around in your head. It's not pain that's resurfacing, but it could be a trauma. It might even be childhood trauma. But the reality is it's there and it's affecting your present life. And the training is to try to come to some terms, to make friends with, as hard as that may sound, to accept that what happened happened in the past, but now you have a choice to reframe how you choose to allow this to affect your current consciousness. And I've recognized in the last few weeks that that trauma is not unlike nociceptive pain that persists. It's the same neuromechanisms. And so all I'm saying is, you can have excitatory responses to past experiences that continue to excite your nervous system in ways that are not being helpful to you. It's reinforcing the trauma. So how do you get off the tape? How do you stop it? How do you see self as context? How do you not identify your current life with that? That's where maintaining unification of mind and body, learning to exercise greater self-control. It's not willpower, it's not mind over matter, it's mindfulness. It's recognizing what are the conditions that will help me to improve the quality of my life. And that's just kind of the secular advantage. I'm not even talking about the spiritual aspects of this, which are completely consistent. But I mean, you don't have to go into a deep dive on spirituality if you're just trying to help someone managing pain, as felt pain. If you can help them to improve their abilities to focus, relax, and connect, you're going to help them a ton. And there's great value in that. Maybe they'll even realize, wow, this is amazing. I want to learn more. I want to go deeper. And by the way, that's why exercise 8 and 9, 8 is breathing and 9 is meditation. That's why it follows exercise 7 on otomoing. You know why? Because any otomo will say the first time they have these experiences, it's like, whoa, that didn't go very well. I was late and I know it. And I need to learn how to do this. And the only thing separating you is tunnel vision and an expanded periphery. So what's the answer? You need to become much more calm. So take your breathing and your meditation practice to a whole nother level. Now, I'm going to cover exercise 8, key breathing, and exercise 9, key meditation, rather quickly because, because those are huge topics. And actually in the exercises, I'm writing it as though the person is not a Ki Aikido student. And so they need to understand the basics. So I'm not going to do that. What I will say is, what's really critical is just have a breathing practice. Just have one. 5 minutes. If you do 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes 3 times a day. The important thing is make it so simple that it's hard not to hit the bar. And then when you feel good about hitting the bar and it feels so good, you go, you know what, maybe I'll try 10 minutes. I talk to people about the benefits of sometimes long sitting, 3 hours, 5 hours. But it's not like a macho thing, like, oh, you did that for so long. The difference is when you look, you breathe 5 hours with a group. I call it 600 breaths, but I've never gotten beyond 486. But you're counting breaths. What's the purpose of that? You know, the first time you do something like this, your mind is going to bounce all around. I know that. You're going to say, what am I doing? This is so crazy. This is so long. Because you've never, ever, ever even tried something like that. But guess what? It could very well be that maybe at 4 hours and 10 minutes into it, for whatever reason, you got into a state, the depth of calmness that you have never tasted in your whole life. I mean, it's huge. You're like, whoa. I mean, when you touch a first order experience, and for the first time in your life, you're not intending anything, an intentionless experience. What you're experiencing now is the ground of possibility of all possible intentional vectors. You're seeing the pure stage, the arena upon which your intentional life has been cast since you were born. But if for the first time you get underneath the projection that has been a part of your consciousness your whole life, it's a qualitatively different experience that you taste. Now, what I'm saying is, if you actually taste that, because you're doing something, it could have been, I don't know, your brain could have been doing all kinds of things. But if you tasted that because you just sat for a long time, now what you do is take a mental picture of that state and remember that wasn't an accident. You were the orchestrator, the facilitator of that state, that first order state. And when you own that, when you've done breathing and meditation so much that you're really beginning to understand this movement from third order, second order, first order, or whatever nomenclature you want to have, the idea is you are now tasting a depth of connection, a depth of awareness, a depth of noticing that's never been part of your life experience. And so what you recognize is the possibility that this is very real. It's not mystic. I just have to get out of my own way, as I've said 1,000 times. So breathing and the process of breathing is very conducive to that because it's an activity. It's a dynamic X, right? It's not static. Your mind wants to move, so in and out. Or the same thing, kakudai ho, chushu ho, or toitsu ho. So the same thing. The idea of exercise 8 and exercise 9 is there to help you take your ability to manage as felt pain deeper. But it's going to have a lot of other benefits, as you well know. As I look around, I see people nodding. I will say this, you know, with all these Zoom calls now for however many months it's been, I hear a lot of discussions of people saying, well, what is this experience? You know, how can you describe this experience? And I'll say that, you know, other than this historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the second most famous Buddhist in all of Buddhist history, and I won't go down a wormhole to explain why that's the case, but his name is Nagarjuna, who wrote the Mulamadhyama Kakarikas. Nagarjuna was famous. By the way, I see my German friends there. Remember when we were talking about Immanuel Kant and the thing in itself, the Ding an sich? He was talking about the phenomenal reality, that is the world available to our sense experience, and then reality in itself, the Ding an sich. That's what's referred to as the noumenal reality, the reality that is there, but as long as I'm apprehending it with my senses and my brain are already organizing this experience in ways that I can't escape. This is my consciousness. So there's this kind of two realities, the thing in itself. Well, guess what? Nagarjuna was doing what for Kant, this was called a Copernican revolution in Western philosophy. I mean, a Copernican revolution, that's a big deal. Like he turned epistemology on its head. But Nagarjuna did this a long time ago, because Nagarjuna said, you know what? There's this level of noumenal reality called paramatha and the phenomenal reality. And what he said is, he went back to the early Buddhist texts where there's this word sammuti. It's a combination of two concepts, together, and thinking. Thinking together is like a word for conceptualizing or trying to talk about a first order experience, okay? But he did this play on words, and he turned sammuti to samvirti. Vert is the root to cover. So he's talking about thinking is covering. That's a beautiful kind of image, almost a Saikonton epigram image, to think that something's covering. What is that? That's your second order and your third order intentionality is covering reality. So the idea here is it's not that it's mystic, it's just that language is not up to the task. Language uses words and concepts that are always relative. I mean, to understand on, you have to understand the notion of off, right? Cat, or the universe of non-catness. That's how you understand what a cat is. You simultaneously understand the universe of non-cat. Okay, well, this might sound a little much, but the idea is it's not really even thinking that's the problem. It's your attachments. It's being attached to certain kinds of projections and thinking that lead to catastrophism. Whether it's trauma, whether it's asphalt pain, or it could just be a kind of dust on your mirror in daily life. Okay, so I think we've got the idea of breathing and meditation is basically go deeper, deeper, deeper. And I tried to give you a couple other little illustrations to see. Exercise 10 is interesting because it's basically, the question is, have you ever wondered if you could be calm and relaxed all the time? All the time, all. Well, look, there's times when something happens and it's a big stressor in your life, right? Or you could have inflammation and suddenly a big flare-up in as-felt pain. Well, the training to maintain Shinshin Potsu, the training is to maintain that calmness. So what do? You remember in times of stress or as felt pain, what do? Immediately go back to that calm state. Remember I said, take a snapshot of that, the depth of consciousness that you remembered. You were the author of doing that. In your breathing and meditation, you tasted maybe a qualitatively different experience. So why not use that? Once you've developed this facility, you have clues, which is noticing your body. For example, here on exercise 10, I said, how do you feel? What happens in your body as you practice calmness in stressful moments? Okay, you're under stress, you notice it. So rather than take a breath before you speak or take a breath before you act, why don't you notice you're under stress? And notice, oh, maybe I should keep one point, relax, keep weight on the side. Let me tap with confidence the clarity that I know I can tap. I don't have to breathe for 5 hours or 3 hours or even 1 hour. With facility, I can change my state in a nanosecond because of your repetition and your practice and your training. So rather than trying to control bodily reactions to pain, simply observe them as part of the practice of calmness. Let the growing sense of deep calmness inform you of the possibility, get this, of holding intensity and calmness at the same time. We have a Shokushu, Seido Itsuchi, the oneness of calm and action. It's no different. In that class that Matthew was describing that Shinichi Tohei Sensei just taught, an example of this Perfect example, exact same thing. Let's say you're practicing unbendable arm. So you're there with your partner, you're doing unbendable arm. But what if you say, just for illustration, you adopt the pattern, I don't want my arm to bend. Don't bend, don't bend, don't bend, don't bend. If you're thinking don't bend, how does that work for you? I see people going, yeah, that's not going to work, right? But if you accept and you say, welcome, just like an advanced key test, welcome, please come, just like an advanced key test, please don't react to the examiner. So this learning, everything that we're doing, learning this kind of non-reactivity, holding intensity and calmness together, all of this stuff is beautifully applicable to helping people to manage as felt pain. So what is it like to embrace, not react to, arising upper side sensations of as felt pain? So you put in the time, you're doing the work, you're doing your breathing, your meditation, you're understanding the importance of maintaining this, you're practicing in a daily life, boom, you're going to get fantastic results in causing that pain intensity to diminish. Exercise 11 is to say, you know, since you put in all this time and you've developed these skills, why should we only apply this when we're having flare-ups of stress or flare-ups of as felt pain? Why don't I just say, you know what? This stuff is amazing. When I practice focusing, relaxing, and connecting, all things go better. Remember Toi Sensei when he was in the army in China? That was when he had his first profound, you know, Fudo Tai, immovable mind, right? An immovable body, Fudo Shin and Fudo Tai. And he simply said, you know, I just noticed, this was before any teachers, by the way. It's like, I noticed when I was calm, when I was more balanced, when I was relaxed, I made better decisions. And 80 people were relying on me in enemy territory, and I needed to make good decisions. And he recognized right then that the self-control, the characteristics that were evidenced by the triple sage that was Toi Sensei's ideal was already, what's the word, embodied. He was already feeling what this unification of mind and body, what this control of mind, body, and emotion, what's this being measured in times of stress. So he's already touching this. And then he's well, actually, by the time he was in China, he had been with Ogura Sensei. So in any event, you get my idea. Why not practice 24/7? And for us, it's like holding a carrot. Oh, please try this. But if you're helping someone who is currently living with persistent chronic pain, you don't have to hold up a carrot. They want to practice 24/7 because immediately they recognize the benefits. Okay, exercise 12 and exercise 13, you got it, is going deeper, deeper, deeper. Exercise 10 and 11 is exercising your conscious action. Okay, that's chapter 5, conscious action. But most of our action, or a lot of our action, is driven by subconscious and unconscious behaviors, which can contribute to the loop of as felt pain and trauma. So exercise 12 and exercise 13 is a grand effort to get out of your own way even more. And what you find in exercise 12, the question is, have you ever wondered if you could feel your heartbeat, your skin breathe, or the earth rotate? You are now prepared to extend your ability to notice in new and profound ways. You're going deeper now means reflecting all things more clearly without the interference of your mental chatter. Presencing the environment around you is transformational because you are now witnessing resources to help you manage pain at all times. You are not alone. And if you remember last time we were talking about this with Saikonton, you know, the fact that you're not alone and that you're relying on nature, that's kaiden. That's what Toi Sensei said. The triple sage learns from nature. And so higher than Joden, Okuden is kaiden. So Toi Sensei said, nobody can give the rank of kaiden. Kaiden means you have now at a level that you're learning directly from nature. And that's what exercise 12 is. Because when you do that, your notion of self as context, you recognize not only are you not your pain, not only are you just a participant that can witness two people talking, or you can witness really giving your attention to someone else, exercise 5, or you can witness really taking that service to another level, Otomo, exercise 7. Now what you're recognizing, you know what the reality is? The real me is not what I've thought in my construct all my life. The real me is what Toi Sensei said, you are the universe and the universe is you. It couldn't be any other way. If you were not connected deeply to the universe, you would not be alive. That's why Toi Sensei said, even an inchworm, you know, has a half inch. So as long as you're alive, you can feel the key of the universe, which is flowing through you. And creating or not creating obstacles where things get stuck, right? That's because ki flows. And when ki flows, as long as you don't interrupt it, that's why if you just say, please test unbendable arm and ki flows, and you're fine. But if you say, oh, I hold up my arm, I gotta do this, or it's like, clearly your self-identity is I'm doing this and the other person's doing this to me. We know because of our training that that's complete relative thinking and it's not going to get you anywhere. So the fact that you know this deeply, I'm just trying to situate all that you've learned, all the skills. I'm looking here at all of you. You are all really, really experienced. And so all I'm saying is, can you see now how all the things you've been doing throughout are really, really applicable to helping someone, since this topic is managing as felt pain. Okay, almost the last one, 13, be in and with your emotions. Have you ever wondered if your as felt pain intensifies when you are angry, sad, or upset? Well, it does, if you've ever wondered. So exercise 13, you could say, you know, I always say enlightenment is a verb, not a noun. It's a way of being that never stops. Like Toi Sensei would say, we even did practice, say, oh, you know, I've got it. You know, you say that, I've got it. Your key stops, test, no, nothing, right? It's a process, key flows. You're never there and it's not you and it's not knowledge you have either. It's a way of being. And yet, our life memories are affecting us subconsciously and unconsciously. So if you really, really work on developing deep calmness, your mirror is going to be mirror-like, like the pond where you can look down and see the rocks at the bottom of your consciousness. Those are the habits, maybe even traumatic experiences, or maybe I'll just say things you have not yet processed and dealt with because maybe they're too painful. I'm going to give you another example because it was in Matthew's letter, and I think we can all relate. And I love the fact that Kaicho Sensei is so humble and uses himself as an example. I try to use myself as in a bad example too, like when I don't live up to these practices, right? And Ileana says, oh, you're you know. But what he said is, you know, my father passed away in 2011. And just, you know, a week after that, or maybe even days, he had to teach a seminar. And of course, the host said, Sensei, please, you don't have to come. But he wanted to come. He felt this duty, this obligation. And then a month or two after that, he needed to come to Las Vegas to teach a national seminar with all of us, just weeks after his father had passed away. And of course, we were all, oh, you don't have to come, Sensei, we could cancel. And he said, you know, other people around me were crying and so sad, but Shinichi Sensei wasn't. And he said it wasn't until a conversation some years later with his mother that he recognized that he also had not processed his father's death. That's what we all do. We all have these examples where we don't completely process something that's deeply affecting us. And then we do things and we don't know why because it's so hidden. But his mother helped him to realize that he had not yet processed fully his father's passing. And when he did that, it's a kind of release. And that happens to me with pain. There's a release. But when there's emotional trauma, I can say there's a release too. And it's not always easy. But until you're willing to make friends with those things causing negative reactions in you, you will forever be a victim of them, of those things affecting your life. And so the idea of looking deeply, exercise 13, is something that goes on your whole life. I mean, I got story after story of virtually all those things. Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you happy? Do you feel shame? Do you feel guilt? We all have stuff. But the idea is you want to polish your mirror, and that dust is not helping you. In fact, you get to know yourself and your history much better. And if you stop catastrophizing or loops that you're not even aware of that are affecting your thinking, that's really the value. So to conclude then, exercise 14 is just a summary. There's really nothing there. It's like, why don't you put it together? Well, Nike, why don't you just do it? You know, just make the choice. I was excited to do this, and I'm excited to actually say, okay, we're done. We got through the exercises. You have the materials. You've been super patient. I'm so grateful for your emails and that you continue to show up. I have a surprise next week. We're going to have next week, and then we're going to take a break because after that it's Thanksgiving and then the holidays. And I think a break would be great. And we'll probably come back. Maybe we'll do one in December, but we'll come back in the new year in January. But because we've, I think, been through so much and we've learned so much, there are 18 people that presented in these 31 sessions. And next week, we're going to invite all 18 presenters to come, and we're going to have a wrap up and say, you know, we started doing this. When did we start? March? Was that right? April? I forget.
We started in April.
Okay. So, but it's been going on for 31 weeks, right? And I think it would be great for us to take stock. So many people presented, and I know they learned a lot, just the activity of preparing and presenting. And we got to learn from each other. And I'm grateful. I got to take a deep dive in 3 different areas: the place of peace, psychonton, and self-care, managing pain. I never would have had the opportunity to even organize my thoughts as deeply and carefully as I tried to do. And I'm so happy that we've done that. And I'm so happy that the presenters have done such an incredible job. So I look at next Thursday as kind of a celebratory week. Freiling Sensei will be sending out an announcement. I think he already wrote something this morning to the 18 presenters. So hopefully they can all come. I'm looking around. Orwat Sensei, thank you so much. You're just, you know, I know you're quiet, but I'm looking at you the whole time, and I appreciate you being here. And Sashin, you're here every time. Mike Stevens, thank you. Julie, Michael Williams, thank you. Tim, Sally, thank you so much. The email yesterday for all your hard work and assisting there. Patrick, Charlotte, good to see you. And Matthew, Gardner Sensei, everybody that I can see, Schubert Sensei, I'm really grateful. And I know I'm now over an hour. Matthew, do you have anything to share?
I don't. I do have one thing though, because I think in that email I made just one little maybe like phrasing error. So instead of shinshin toitsu o tamots or toitsutai o tamot, or excuse me, I just gave away the answer. Instead of using shinshin toitsu, saying toitsutai o tamots or toitsutai o midas. And
I gotcha.
will put that in the chat for everyone. So again,
Okay.
toitsutai just means,
Yeah.
toitsutai, mind and body unified.
Yeah.
And we've also given that another definition, which is tenchi toitai de aru honrai no sugata, which I will put in the chat as well. Which
Perfect.
is just your original state of being that is already one with the universe. So not changing anything you just said, just that little phrasing error that I had. So pardon.
Well, yeah, I was just reading directly off your email, the Japanese part, but I appreciate that. And thank you for clarifying, because you just saved me from making an error. We'll put that in the recording and the notes. You see, it takes a family. Okay. Next week I hope to hear from everyone and have time for Q&A. I do Q&A too right now, but I'm just so conscious that I'm holding you over, and I'm grateful that you're willing to spend an hour with me each week. And I know a lot of people jump in immediately on the recordings who can't do this particular hour, but thank you so much. It's past midnight. Schubert Sensei, Sophia, thank you for everything. And again, I love you all. Look forward to next week, and then we'll take a little holiday break. So
thank you, Sensei.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you. Bye-bye.